a choice, whether they're 14, 15 years old and offered alcohol, pot for the first time, giving them the opportunity to develop, is this really worth me doing it? Who's in sports here? Okay, so weighing out is, if I get caught, is, you know, high school or junior high, 40%. What happens if you guys get caught with alcohol if you're under the legal age here? You get fined? Do you get dropped at all from the team? Okay. So it's just kind of giving them the opportunities to think through if it's worth the risk or not. How many people are 21? So just 1, 2, and then, so I'm assuming when we talk about alcohol that you guys are going to be the only ones that have ever tasted alcohol, because nobody here under the age of 21 would have done something like that, correct? We're good to go? Okay, so again, my name is Katie Talbot. I'm with Prevention at Community and Family Resources. We are a treatment, substance abuse, mental health treatment agency, and I'll just kind of go over some things that we do. Have you noticed a new building across the highway over here? It's in the process of being built. That is going to be our new Fort Dodge location. We're going to have our outpatient treatment centers there. We're also going to have our adult, male, female, separate wing residential treatment center, as well as our STARS program, which is adolescent programming, anywhere from age 12 to 18, where they meet criteria to be in residential treatment. We have our outpatient services. We do original evaluations and our detox services. So that means if someone has a really high alcohol content and they need to be brought in and medically monitored on when they sober up, we will do that. Same with opiates, and we will monitor them blood pressure wise, maybe medications if they need it. I'm now in the prevention department. I used to do the counseling, and here we do, if you get an OWI, and you could get an OWI for operating while intoxicated. Doesn't mean you're driving a vehicle. You can get one for riding a horse, riding a lawnmower, flying a plane, anything that you're riding a bicycle drunk. You could technically get an OWI for any of that. And we do a lot of overall education and awareness of new drug trends and bringing it to a level that most community people will understand. So, oops, I went ahead. What would you call addiction? Give me an example of addiction. What would you describe addiction as? I'm going to pick on you in the Iowa shirt. What's your name? Jacob. How would you describe addiction?
Something that someone thinks they can't live without.
Okay. Who's addicted to their cell phone? How long can you go without jonesing for it and wanting to look at it, see if some chick hit you up or whatever? Okay. You're worse than I am. I can maybe go 10 minutes, I'm joking. So addiction, according to the American Society of Addiction Medicine, addiction is described as a primary chronic disease of the brain, reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry. So the two over here, the 21, over 21, the first time you drank, because again, nobody under here 21 has drank, did you like it? Was it fun? Did you have a good time with your friends? That would be the reward. We're motivated again to do it because we have a good experience with it. If the first time I drank and I broke my leg, or I got in a car wreck, or I got a minor in possession, my reward isn't going to be that great, so I'll be less motivated to do it again. But the more we go along and the more we have a good experience with a substance, whether it's alcohol or drugs, the more motivated we are to do it again. So as we continue with our intensity and frequency of drinking or using, eventually our memory and how our brain works overall can be affected. That goes for any substance. There's some factors that influence it, and there'll be the psychological and social influences, and we're going to look at those really fast. Psychological influences are attitudes, values, beliefs, personality, and there are 4 personality traits that have been identified And they are listed as being sensation-seeking, gregarious, impulsive, and rebellious. Sensation-seeking. What do you guys like to do for a little adrenaline high? Anything fun? Bungee jumping? What kind of sports stuff do you guys like to do? Football? Okay. Gregarious, meaning you like to be the center of attention, like to be around friends. Maybe you would be at the party. Maybe you would be at the bar. You're always involved with whatever activity is going on. Impulsive, kind of do things without thinking. I have a test on Monday, but it's Sunday night, and there's this really good movie I want to go to, so I'm going to go to the movie, and I'll think about the test later on. Rebellious, you do things against the grain. You do things, you push the limits on stuff. Just because you have these 4 personality traits does not mean you're going to become an alcoholic or an addict. It just makes that reward motivation part of your brain, it just hits it a little bit more. So if I am doing shots and we're having a game and I'm going to try a new, I don't know, I'll just say Jaeger bomb or whatever it is, and I have never done it before, I'm looking for that next level of excitement. I'm going to give you an example. It's just an example. President Trump has all 4 of these personality traits. His brother Frank has all 4 of these personality traits. Frank became an alcoholic and died in his 50s. Trump used his to build business and look at the way, in the best sense, they can be productive, meaning you're willing to push the limits, you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to build businesses, you're going to build real estate, whatever it is you decide to do. In the most negative way, they're going to be destructive. Looking at, I'm out of money for alcohol or drugs, I'm going to rob a store. I'm always looking for that next sensation-seeking high. It doesn't have to, and it's usually something that could put you at danger. Maybe it's, I'm going to get drunk and drive down Highway 20 at 90 miles an hour at 2 o'clock in the morning because that's going to be really cool with my windows open and the radio going. So that's the difference between those. Everybody has some of these personality traits. So I just want to reiterate, just because you have them does not mean you're going to have an addiction issue. It just makes the reward motivation a little bit more intense because you're looking for more stimulation, fun. We have our social factors. What kind of, this affects everything that happens in a group that we're a part of, whether it's friends, classmates, work groups, nation, etc. So those of you who aren't 21, but I'm sure you've heard of drinking games, give me an example of something that would encourage somebody to drink more. Yes, sir. Okay. Anybody else? So nobody's really drank and knows any of these stuff? I'm going to pick on you, Hawkeye guy. What? Give me an example. Okay. So look at, I do a lot in Ames. So they talk about Friday after class. So after class on Friday, there's specials at the bar. Mug night. I could go in to a bar with a mug. Maybe I pay $10 for it, and I can drink all I want for a couple hours with beer. Something that kind of encourages tailgating. Something that just kind of encourages, behaviors that might increase your likelihood of drinking. I think of construction workers. If they're working out in the middle of August, hot, the sun's beating down on them all day, what sounds good after work? An ice cold beer, yep. So maybe that's it. I'm working at a treatment agency. If we have a hard day at work, most likely we're not going to the bars or getting lit on the weekends because we work with a lot of substance use during the week, and that's just part of our work culture. We're going to look at phases of addiction, and there are 4 distinct phases. The first one is take it or leave it attitude. Let's see, who do I want to pick on this time? Well, I'm going to pick on my Hawkeye guys again. I'm going to watch Iowa State kick your butts at the next game. So I'm going to go to your house, whatever, you guys are roommates. I'm going to go to your house, watch the game. I don't care if alcohol's there. I'm there to hang out with my friends, watch the game. I'm not using any drugs, not smoking pot, nothing, and I'm taking all medications as prescribed. I'm not abusing my medications. And with that, if you are healthy, people in this stage can drink 1 to 2 drinks every single day, never get drunk, never change their tolerance level, never get impaired at all, and so most likely they will never have an OWI or a public intox. So looking at that would be, I come home from work, I want a glass of wine with dinner. I come home from work, I want to have a beer. They're only drinking 1 or 2, so it's never getting them drunk enough. 70% of people in the United States fall into this first category. They also consume only 30% of all alcohol in the United States. 30% of people consume 90% of alcohol in the country. And this stage 1, phase 1, again, it's pretty simple. You do what you're supposed to do, you don't ever get drunk, and you take medications as prescribed. Phase 2, we start seeing an increased tolerance, which we start thinking is something that can protect us. So, you in the bluish aqua shirt, what's your name? Jonas. Jonas? How would you describe tolerance?
A level which that you
Kind of get that high, kind of get that... Yeah, just kind of, so the tolerance level, and you're going on the right track. Maybe it takes 1 or 2 beers, and I've been drinking that for a while, and maybe I have a buzz, maybe I don't. But to get the same feeling, next time I might have to drink 3. I might have to drink 4. I might have to drink 5. So tolerance is an actual structure change in your brain to accommodate the substance. If I smoke pot, and maybe it only took me a hit to get a little buzz, a little high, next thing you know, I'm smoking 2 blunts a day and I'm not going anywhere. That would be your tolerance level increasing. It's an actual structure change in your brain, so your body doesn't say what the heck's going on and shuts down. We start seeing something in stage 2 called anticipation. So I'm at their house and we're watching the game again, and there better be some beer there because that's part of what we do. I prefer Belgian wheat with orange slices, so just letting you know. So it better be there, and if it's not there, then I'm going to go over to these girls' house because I know they'll have some Belgian wheat, and we'll drink at their house. So it's part of my group. Our group is becoming more and more socially dependent on it. If I'm going to hang out with certain people, I know it's going to be there. In stage 2, we also begin to see something called state-dependent learning. Who's ever heard of, I can play darts better when I'm drunk. I can play pool better when I'm drunk. I can pick up chicks better when I've had a buzz. I can pick up guys better when I'm drunk, or whatever it is. It's a real thing. So what that is you would get your blood alcohol level to 0.08, which would be legal limit. You've learned that skill when you're under the influence of whatever substance it is. So I got a pretty good buzz going on. Technically, I'm legally intoxicated. I learned how to play darts. I can best recall it when I'm at that level of intoxication. If I get too drunk, and they say it's about 0.15, I lose the ability, or it's not as clear as it was because I'm too drunk or too high. And then as we sober up and we hit that window again, we can recall those things better. The skills are always yours. You're going to have them no matter what. You've just learned them in this state-dependent window of learning of intoxication. And if someone goes to treatment, they relearn to do those skills again without substance use. Or if you play darts and you decide you're not to drink, you can play just as well. You just might have to concentrate until you get yourself worked back out to it. We start seeing a reduction in abstract thinking. Who is majoring in math or cars or mechanics, anything like that, where the problem of putting puzzles together, fixing items, whether it's video cameras, whether it's an actual car, how to problem think can be impaired with the abstract thinking, and our short-term memory can be impacted. We're also showing some sign of psychological dependence. So, of course, the Hawkeyes lost again, and so it's celebrating, or you're depressed, you get drunk, or you get high. The Hawkeyes won, you get drunk, or you get high. You slowly replace the people that you would share important things with the substance. We're starting to integrate and be preoccupied with our drug of choice. That's what the DOC is. And we are, what does your sweatshirt say in the blue? You have Iowa State and the one, okay. So I'm assuming you like Iowa State. I'm assuming you like Texas A&M. Or is it just a sweatshirt? Or you like, okay. So we're starting to be incorporated more in our lives. Let's see, I'm gonna pick on these 4 up here. If you had a Sam Adams shirt on, I would assume, what about you? You like to drink. If you had a 420 tattoo on your shoulder, what would I assume? You like to smoke some weed. So we're starting to incorporate it more in our life and how things go. I'll be danged if I'm taking an 8 o'clock class because I've been at the bar till 2 o'clock in the morning, and you expect me to be across campus and wide-eyed and bushy-tailed at 8 o'clock? That's not happening. Maybe we're going to have your parents invite you, say Grandma and Grandpa's coming over for dinner on Friday. You say, yeah, I'll go, I'll be there. So you're thinking, I can get home by 5, have dinner, see Grandma and Grandpa, maybe they'll give me some money, Mom and Dad will be happy, and then I can get back down with my friends. We're rearranging our lives and to go around our drug of choices. We also might have collection of bongs, collection of shot glasses. We might also, just however you want to celebrate your substance use. You might have, I had a client one time, he came in and he had a hemp necklace on and it had a mushroom on it. And he'd been there a couple times. And he sits next to me and I'm just pretending this is his wallet, and he pulls it out and he goes, see my wallet? And it had a big marijuana leaf on it. And I'm like, yeah, I see your wallet. And then he's like, see my socks? They're psychedelic. He knew he was getting treatment, and he actually wore every single item he had that represented marijuana to the evaluation because he thought it was kind of funny. But he was kind of preoccupied with it because he had all this, the hemp necklace. I think he had a Pink Floyd sweatshirt on that was t-shirt on that was tie-dye. So that's kind of what they're talking about, being integrated and preoccupied with it. He probably spent some time and money looking around and investing on stuff like that. Then we go to phase 3. Everything that happens in phase 2 continues. We're starting to develop a sense of relationship, and I kind of went over that. We're replacing the people and friends with alcohol or drugs, and we're defending our choices. So 4 of you in this first row. Miss in the A. Oh, what kind of drugs would you like to sell? What kind of dope? Because back in the day, dope was pot, but now dope is meth or heroin. Are you going to be a pot seller?
Probably not.
Okay, so if you could be just go ahead and pick a drug that you're going to deal. Marijuana. How about you?
Marijuana.
Okay, you guys can't pick marijuana. What do you want? What'd you say? Meth? Okay, you're my meth dealer. How about you? Okay, you're my crack dealer. Okay, so we're all having this big old party. Cops come in, bust us. Got my 2 potheads here. They go to jail, and they're like, well, at least we're not dealing meth or crack like those 2 guys. We're defending our choices. We're minimizing what's going on. When, say you brought home some guys that your parents didn't like, and you guys brought home some girls your parents didn't like, and you're like, but they love me. You don't know how we get along, and blah, 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 all this stuff. We're defending our choices. Also in there, when I've worked with sometimes women who had meth use, they had DHS involvement. Their children had been removed from their homes because of drugs. they would often say, I was still a good mom, the house was clean, I cooked dinner for those kids every single night they went without. But what they're not realizing is, were they emotionally there for their children? Were they able to still react the same way if they were sober? And most of the times, no, because they were focusing on, a lot of times they would drive around with their kids in the vehicle looking for their next score. Or people would come into the house, even though the house was clean, but they were, sometimes their kids were around people they probably shouldn't have been around because of the drugs. Stage 3, the outcomes of this one, we start seeing health and impairment problems. Health problems happen over a period of drinking, a period of time. Who can give me a health problem related to alcohol? Is that Grace? You work at Fairway with my brother. Give me an example of...
Liver?
Yeah, cirrhosis of the liver, something like that. How about you? Give me an example of a health problem. What happens if you smoke a lot of drugs? Okay, your brain can be affected. How about you? Give me one. Yep. Okay, an impairment problem happens in one night or one episode of use. Can you give me one? An example of something that could happen on one night of drinking or using. What's that? Did you say something? Okay. Falling, maybe breaking a leg, drowning, fights, OWI, something that happens from one instance. We also start seeing blackouts, and it's when we reach a really high alcohol level or drug level in our blood very rapidly. So what happens is the brain kind of is focused just on the core abilities to breathe, regulate your heartbeat, and you're actually walking around doing whatever, and your brain is not keeping any memory of what's going on. And we have impaired executive functioning, meaning that it's harder for us to prioritize and to figure out what we need to do. Again, our abstract impairment on how to put puzzles together, solve basic issues. And then marijuana users, a lot of verbal IQ. Have anybody in here ever seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Okay, so 2 people. Spicoli, is that his name? What did he sound like? Yeah. So when they talk about lower verbal IQ, they're talking about with marijuana users, and especially extreme marijuana users, that their ability to articulate, say what they need to do, say what they need to say, is impaired. And people that smoke like they do or use like they do, they all kind of understand what's going on. Think of Beavis and Butthead with their like ha 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 stuff down in the basement. So phase 3 is the most critical of all the phases. Grace, I know your mom. What would she do if she saw that picture? She'd probably be messaging me on Facebook saying no. So, okay, Alabama, what would your family do if they got that on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook? They'd be mad. So 50% of people in stage 3 can go back down to phase 1, where they could technically drink every day, not use any drugs, take medication as prescribed. And the other 50% go into phase 4, which is full-blown addiction. Looking at periodic loss of control. An example would be, there's a gentleman I'd worked with many years ago who had moved to Ames. Within a 2-year period, he had an OWI, 4 public intox. He got drunk one night and walked into a girl's dorm and passed out on some girl's bed. Didn't know who she was. She didn't know who he was. When he started to drink, something just clicked in his head, and he was not able to stop. The only way he stopped was when he was passed out. He passed out 2 times in the street, or on the street, on the sidewalk, 1 time in this girl's house. One of the times he passed out, he was missing a t-shirt, didn't have his shoes or his wallet. The only thing that is stopping him is his body shutting itself down. And we can start seeing varying degrees of withdrawal. As we progress into addiction, we might have withdrawal with 2 or 3 drinks, or we might be totally plowed and a bottle, Texas Fifth of whatever, and then we could have withdrawal. And our body treats the large amounts of substance as normal because our tolerance level has changed and the brain structure has changed to recognize the substance as being part of the brain and the absence as being abnormal. Any questions on outcomes? Multiple negative ones, like the guy I was talking about, OWI, public intoxes, going into that girl's apartment, then he got a probation violation, then he got violation of a no contact order. All this stuff just kind of spiraled and happened. We're having more health problems because we're spending more time under the influence. We might have more impairment problems, falling down, hurting ourselves. In this phase, any of these phases too, there can be risk for sexual assault, whether you're male or female. Just because you're high or drunk does not mean that you agreed to do it or that you set yourself up for it. Sometimes it just means that you're so unable to recognize that there's danger, that it's hard for you to get out of that situation. We're starting to see more and more blackouts because we're under the influence more. And an example would be there was a pilot that flew a plane from New York to LA, and he flew when he was drunk. And when he got to LA, he has no recollection of how he got there. He flew the plane. Would you want to be on that plane? Probably not. And then our changing tolerance is that our body is breaking down. It can no longer handle the substances. So any questions on the phases of addiction? We're going to talk real fast about alcohol, and this is part of what Iowa Central wanted to talk about. Iowa is 5th in the nation for binge drinking. We have 2 big party schools, Iowa and Iowa State. Alcohol poisoning is consuming a large amount of alcohol in a short period of time. And on average, a liver can process 1 can of beer, a 4 or 5 ounce glass of wine, or a shot every hour. But that does not equal to 24 shots or 24 beers in an hour. So just think of this as water. And if I add a teaspoon of instant tea to it, what's going to happen to it? And this is all water, and I'm just adding 1 teaspoon. It's not going to do much. But if I continue adding more and more and more and more and more, what's it going to do? It's going to turn really strong tea, maybe even become unable to swallow. Think of that as how blood alcohol or alcohol consumes in your body or accumulates in your body. Since it can only process 1 per hour, if you're drinking 3 or 4 per hour, it's starting to saturate your blood and all the fluids that are in your system, your body tissue, and then until it can be metabolized. So alcohol, classified as a depressant, meaning it slows down reaction time. It slows down your breathing, your heart rate, your gag reflex, which can keep you from choking. And what happens when you have a computer and you have too much stuff going on in it? What happens to the computer? It crash, shuts down. Think of that as what happens when you drink too much or use too much drugs. Think of your brain as a computer. It just shuts down. When someone passes out, that's not falling asleep. That's actually going unconscious because your body now goes into the protection mode. It wants to protect our breathing, our heart rate, which keeps us alive. Has anybody found someone that has drank too much or overdosed or anything like that? If you find someone, the shallow breathing means 1, 5, maybe 10 breaths per minute, very slow, very shallow. Again, unconscious, passing out. If, what's your name? Sydney. So Sydney's passed out. So I'm going to shake her and say, Sydney, wake up. Maybe she's sleeping, maybe she's just a hard sleeper. I'm going to lay her on her back, and I'm going to take a fist, and where your knuckles are, and I'm going to rub really hard on her sternum. If she's faking it or just asleep, she's going to wake up because that hurts really bad. If she's not responding to it, Obviously, we know she's unconscious. If you are lighter colored skin and your breathing is being impacted, your nails, your lips will turn to a bluish tinged skin. If you're darker in color, it'll turn more ashen. So it's showing a lack of oxygen getting to the brain. And again, it's going just to protect the brain, the heart, the lungs, the livers, the core functions. You can have seizures, you can begin vomiting. And when it talks about the low body temperature, we're bringing in all the body temperature for our main organs, and our arms and our legs and our extremities can be, almost feel cool or cold to the touch because your body goes into this protection mode. Oops, I went ahead. So, can you guys see this? I'm going to skip over it real fast. So, that was a scene from Leaving Las Vegas. Nicolas Cage is an alcoholic, and he has a hard time. He starts shaking, and he's vomiting and everything in the morning until he has enough alcohol in his system to equalize it out. Do you know what to do if someone's overdosing or drink too much? My meth dealer, you got your sweatshirt on. So if you were the one that was overdosing, I would take your sweatshirt off, lift it up over your head, give you some room to breathe. When you come around, you might just give you some freedom. I'm going to check your pulse, your heart rate, see how that's going, check your breathing. Call 911, call campus security, they're going to get here faster. Clear the mouth out. Make sure he didn't chew on one of his strings from his sweatshirt and it fell into his mouth, or he had a necklace on and the piece of the necklace didn't get caught, or if he had fake teeth, something's not there. Start doing CPR, start doing the breathing. Who knows the song that you're supposed to, so you want to sing it? Give me that verse so they know how to do it. Come on.
Stay alive.
Yeah, so keep doing that while you're doing chest compressions, because that gives you enough time to do. The chest tells you when to next take the breath. Hopefully you have someone else with you that can do the breathing. Call 911, get help. Thinking of getting in trouble with the school versus spending the rest of your life thinking I could have picked up and called 911 and my friend died. There's something that passed this July 1st called the Good Samaritan Law. So here's my dealers again. One of them is overdosing. So they call, okay, they both are. So you girls call 911. It's up to law enforcement when they get there to deem if they're going to charge you with any possession of drugs or anything. Their first priority is to get the person saved and stabilized. If they knew you were the big dealers, they might. If they just thought you were just a casual user or weren't the big dealer, they're going to use their own discretion on whether to charge you or not, because you're saving someone's life. So, any questions with alcohol? So what's the big deal about pot? What's the big deal about it? Doesn't it come from the ground? God made it. God made poison ivy, but you don't see that many people walking around smoking poison ivy. So looking at more states that legalize, decriminalize, or make marijuana available medicinally, the perception of Iowa youth from 2005 to 2014 has doubled in its perception of being okay. We're just going to touch a little bit on what is different from Grandma and Grandpa's marijuana to marijuana today. So, do you know what THC stands for? The whole fun name. Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinoid. So that's why we say THC, because that's a lot easier to say than all that. Marijuana or any smoking can obviously cause problems with your respiratory system, impair your short-term memory and motor coordination. Who's heard that marijuana can help you focus and study? True? It's very true. Kind of like talking about that state-dependent learning where you learn something. So I'm going to be driving down the highway. I'm going to pick on you. What's your name? Yes.
I'm Brady.
Brady, you're driving. right now, do your little arm thing. Okay, you're driving. He smoked a blunt. He smoked a little bit today. What's your name? I'm sorry. JR is out jogging because he's doing all the healthy, fun stuff. And he has his earbuds in, and he doesn't see him coming. And so you're focused on what's right ahead of you. You don't see him run out. Being focused on that, and that's what they talk about, even that fraction of a second for your body, your mind, to go from where you're totally focused to the peripheral of seeing JR run across can be impacted enough that you can hit him. That's where, when people are having OWIs related to marijuana use, a lot of it is in their slow reaction times. Because they're either driving too slow, they're not reacting to the stimuli around. Let's see, what's your name? Justin. Justin, okay. Justin, where were you this morning before school?
My bad.
Okay, and how'd you get here?
A walk.
Okay, what are you doing after this class?
We go back to our bed.
Okay, well, why?
We're tired.
Okay, so I'm the cop that just pulled you over. So we're talking and stuff, and do you like football? Okay, what about baseball?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Did you see it's supposed to rain tonight?
I haven't checked.
Okay. Come up with a different answer now. What did you do before you came into class this morning?
I had breakfast.
Well, I thought you said you were in bed.
I'm fine.
I'm not.
Trick question, right?
So law enforcement is trained to see how the use has affected your memory. Because sometimes, especially with marijuana, people don't, that short-term memory can be impacted. So generally, if they suspect marijuana use, whether it's smell, they smell it, the tongue's green, their eyes are glassy, whatever it is, they will ask a series of questions. And if the person is not under the influence of marijuana, generally they're going to repeat what they've already said. But marijuana use can impact the short-term memory, so you might have just forgotten that you told them that you were in bed. And then what are you doing after class today? You come up with something totally different. Well, I thought you said you were going back to bed. So it's kind of, that's what they're trained to look at. It can impact how you learn, alter your moods, impact how you make decisions, and in some cases cause severe anxiety and psychosis. Now, why do you think it would cause severe anxiety and psychosis? Yeah, they get caught. But also, there's a change in the level of THC. So, 1971, how much THC, the psychoactive part of marijuana, do you think a regular joint contained? Give me a number. Lower. 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 Yes. So Grandma and Grandpa's pot is 1% THC. So it's a little bit of ditchweed. Think of the hippies, they're all kind of out relaxing. Nobody's getting too high, they're just kind of relaxed. Today's pot,
150.
well, on average, 15 to 34% pure THC for a joint. When you get into concentrates, diamonds, dabs, shatters, butters, waxes, that can be up to 99% pure THC. That's the biggest difference from today's pot to pot from years ago, is how it's the THC levels. So, number of Iowans that went to the emergency room from 2006 to 2014 quadrupled, with marijuana being the primary or contributing reason why they went. Whether it was an accident. Also, marijuana is considered its own little special drug, because in the first hour, half hour, when you smoke, or you smoke anything in general, it constricts your veins, your blood vessels. So your body's working harder to pump more blood, so it's considered a stimulant. A lot of times people are expecting to relax with pot, and then they have that opposite reaction within the first hour. And with more THC levels, they're having that opposite reaction. So they will go to the emergency room because they are not having that expectation that they thought they were just going to relax. Then after it kicks in, your body gets used to it, then you have the relaxation part, the depressant part, and then in some cases it can be hallucinogenic. You might be laced with something, or the THC is so pure, high grade, that you start hearing, seeing things that are not there. Oils. 710 is oil, butane honey oil, upside down and backwards. What is shatter? It's a concentrated THC. Kind of looks like peanut brittle. Wax can look like your earwax. It's almost like a golden. Then there's crumble. Kind of looks like dried up peanut